Nobody moves, and nobody gets hurt!
Oh my God, what are we gonna do?
The CEO had built one of the country's fastest-growing financial companies through discipline, intelligence, and fearless decision-making. Every minute of her schedule was planned months in advance. That morning, she stopped at First Capital Bank for what was supposed to be a routine meeting before flying to another state to finalize a billion-dollar investment. She expected paperwork, handshakes, and a quick departure. Instead, she walked into a moment that would change the way she judged people forever. The bank lobby was busy but peaceful. Business owners discussed loans near the reception desk. Elderly customers waited patiently for their turn. Employees smiled as they greeted regular clients. Near the back of the lobby sat a man who barely attracted any attention. His faded brown jacket carried oil stains. His work boots were dusty and his hands were rough from years of physical labor. Beside him sat a little girl around 7 years old, quietly coloring in a notebook while hugging a small teddy bear. The CEO glanced toward them only briefly before looking away. They looked like an ordinary father and daughter waiting for their appointment. But something about the man felt different. Although he appeared tired, his posture remained straight. Every few moments, his eyes calmly drifted around the room, not nervously, but carefully. He noticed every entrance, every security camera, every emergency exit, and every reflection in the polished marble floor before smiling warmly at his daughter again. She wondered why a mechanic-looking father would have that level of awareness. Before she could think further, the bank door suddenly exploded open. 4 masked men dressed in black tactical clothing rushed inside carrying rifles. Nobody move. The first gunshot blasted into the ceiling. Glass shattered. People screamed. Several customers dropped to the floor instantly, while others froze in complete panic. One robber kicked the front door shut while another pointed his rifle across the room. Phones, wallets, everyone on the ground. The CEO slowly lowered herself beside a marble pillar, trying to remain calm despite her racing heart. Around her, people cried, prayed, and trembled. Only one person remained unusually composed, the single father. He gently placed one hand on his daughter's shoulder. Without raising his voice, he whispered, "Remember what we practiced." The little girl nodded immediately. She crawled beneath a nearby customer service desk exactly as instructed, clutching her teddy bear but never crying. The CEO noticed that children usually panic during emergencies. This child trusted her father completely. One robber saw the movement and pointed his rifle directly at the father. "You stay where you are." The father slowly lifted both hands. "We're staying calm," he replied evenly. His voice carried no fear, no anger, no challenge, just quiet confidence. The robber stared at him for a second before turning away to control the other hostages. The CEO kept watching the father from across the lobby. His breathing never changed. His eyes continued moving. He counted the robbers. He measured the distance between them. He studied their communication. He noticed which man appeared nervous and which one was giving orders. This wasn't the behavior of an ordinary mechanic. It was the behavior of someone trained to stay calm while everyone else lost control. Meanwhile, the robbers forced bank employees to empty cash drawers into large bags. Another criminal ordered the branch manager to unlock secure offices. The leader kept checking his watch. "We've got 5 minutes, move." Outside, faint police sirens echoed somewhere in the distance. Inside, tension grew heavier every second. Then an elderly customer beside the father suddenly began struggling to breathe. "My inhaler," the old man whispered desperately. The robber guarding the hostages immediately aimed his rifle. "I said nobody moves." The father looked directly at him. "If he can't breathe, he'll die. So what? If he dies, this becomes a murder investigation instead of a robbery." The robber hesitated. The words reached him. Finally, he growled, 30 seconds. The father moved slowly, reached into the elderly man's coat pocket, retrieved the inhaler, and helped him take several deep breaths before placing it back. "No tricks," the robber warned. "You asked for calm," the father answered quietly. "I'm helping you keep everyone calm." Even the robber seemed unsure how to respond. The CEO couldn't stop studying him now. Everything about him suggested hidden experience. His movements were efficient. His emotions stayed controlled. He never acted recklessly. Suddenly, another customer, overwhelmed by fear, bolted toward the entrance. A robber fired a warning shot. The frightened man slipped across the polished floor before reaching the doors. 2 gunmen chased after him, leaving only one robber guarding the hostages. The formation had broken, the father noticed instantly. His eyes briefly met his daughter's beneath the desk. She gave the smallest nod as though she already understood exactly what her father was thinking. The CEO felt her heartbeat quicken. She didn't know who this quiet single dad really was, but every instinct told her that the next few seconds were about to reveal a truth that none of them could have imagined. The instant the robber looked away, the single father moved. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't reckless, it was precise. He grabbed the robber's wrist, twisted the rifle safely toward the ceiling, and drove his shoulder into the man's chest. The weapon clattered across the marble floor before anyone fully realized what had happened. "Get down," he shouted. The CEO immediately pulled two frightened customers behind the thick marble counter as another robber opened fire. Bullets struck pillars instead of people. Using the counter for cover, the father slid across the polished floor, kicked the abandoned rifle out of reach, and slammed a heavy chair into the second gunman's knees. The attacker crashed to the ground, giving nearby customers enough time to crawl toward safety. The remaining two robbers realized they had lost control. "Take the hostages," one of them yelled. But panic had shifted. It no longer belonged to the innocent people. It belonged to the criminals. The father picked up the dropped rifle, removed its magazine in one swift motion, and threw both pieces in opposite directions. "You've already lost," he said calmly. "Don't make this worse." Sirens screamed outside. Red and blue lights reflected through the glass entrance. Hearing the approaching police, the robbers rushed toward the exit only to find armed officers surrounding the building. Within seconds, they surrendered. Silence slowly returned to the bank. Customers stood one after another, still struggling to believe what they had witnessed. The CEO walked toward the father, who was kneeling beside his daughter, checking if she was frightened. She wrapped her arms around his neck. "I knew you'd keep everyone safe," she whispered. He smiled warmly. "I promised, didn't I?" The CEO looked at him with admiration. "You stayed calm when everyone else was terrified." "How?" The father paused before answering. "Years ago, I served with an elite military special operations unit. After losing my wife, I left that life behind. My daughter doesn't need a hero. She needs a father." The CEO nodded silently, deeply moved. "Today," she said, "you were both." A week later, the bank held a ceremony honoring the brave customers and police officers. But the loudest applause belonged to the quiet single dad who never sought recognition. When reporters asked why he had risked everything for strangers, he simply smiled and held his daughter's hand. "My little girl was watching," he replied. "Children don't learn courage from our words. They learn it from our choices." The crowd fell silent before erupting into applause once more. That day, the CEO realized true leadership isn't measured by wealth, titles, or power. It's revealed in the moments when fear tests your character. And the greatest heroes are often the ordinary people who quietly choose to protect others, expecting nothing in return. The single dad walked away with no reward, except his daughter's proud smile. And to him, that was worth more than all the money in the bank.